Pete Greenwood from mid-Florida. And the reason I'm coming today is we have an impending disaster here in the state of Florida. Um, most of us were supposed to get stimulus checks from the government. It was mandated by the Congress, the House, and signed into law by the President. Most people haven't gotten their stimulus checks. Maybe 20% have. I've done a survey with my wife and my son of 1,000 people over the past 3 weeks. And we've asked people to text us or call us back if they've gotten their stimulus check or they've got unemployment here in the state of Florida. So far, we haven't got one single person that has called us back. Out of 1,000 people, 58 people got their stimulus money from the federal government. Okay? There's probably a couple reasons for that. First one's going to be that, the president's asked us to go in if we got a refund coming to file our income tax. And if you didn't have one, you'd have extra time. Well, here's what happened. They accepted our income tax filings, and they're in a permanent state of limbo at this point and say processing, which is probably keeping us from getting unemployment as well as that stimulus check. We surveyed 1,000 people, and the amount of people that were in such desperate trouble, you would never ever believe. Right now, we are 2.5 months behind in our rent. We got shut down very early. In fact, as soon as this whole thing got started, our work just dried up pretty much immediately, which was good because I was pneumonia for almost 5 weeks. Excuse me. Anyway, the fact of the matter is right now, the money that was supposed to go for small businesses across the country has been subverted to universities like Harvard. They went to basketball teams like the Knicks and several others. But most of the money went to publicly traded companies. These are companies that are traded on the Wall Street Stock Exchange, okay? And why that's important, I'll tell you in a second. But basically, since the start of this presidency, first thing he did is the tax break for the middle class, which turned into a $2 trillion tax cut for the very wealthiest people in this country. In fact, 1/8 of 1% of the people in this country got that money, $2 trillion. Which equates to Fortune 500 companies, which has turned into the largest amount of buybacks in the history of Wall Street. What that means is companies that were publicly traded sold off a lot of their stock to a lot of people to the point where they owned less than the public did. Well, they've been using that $2 trillion to buy back large portions of their stock, which have kept the Wall Street numbers up very high and look very good for Trump. And isn't it kind of amazing that somehow they figured out how to put another couple $1 trillion into the rest of Wall Street, the smaller publicly traded companies. Companies like Axios News, that's actually owned by Comcast, a Fortune 500 company, who got $5 million. By the way, Harvard University, $40 million. I mean, this is freaking ridiculous. Mom and pop businesses all across the country, Nancy Pelosi said they were the engine of our economy in this country, got nothing, okay? People have not got their stimulus checks. I mean, they were saying, look over here, we'll give you this money. And they just gave it to some of the richest people in this country once again. But right now, the big problem is, in surveying these people, I found a lot of these people had their cars repossessed, were hiding their cars, had surrendered their cars. They're only a couple months behind, but a lot of these dealerships in this state, they're drive time and so forth, you get 6 weeks behind, they're coming for your car, or they're asking you back for it at least. And a lot of people have lost their vehicles. These same people, some of them are up to 3 months behind in their rent, 3 months behind in their electric bill, which they haven't shut off yet. Thank God for the electric company. Cable is keeping people on. That's fantastic too. But the whole deal is like my wife and myself, under the CARES program, we should be getting $1,500 a week coming in. And we have nothing. In fact, not only do we have nothing, we have no path to ever getting that money. I mean, so far, Ron DeSantis has threw up one roadblock after another. A site, instituted by Rick Scott to not give unemployment to anybody in this state. In fact, I'm going to, just as proof of that, I'm going to include a video of Gary Farmer. He's a senator from District 34 here in Florida, who tells the history of our unemployment system here was instituted by Rick Scott. In fact, he went on national TV to brag how he saved the state millions upon millions of dollars in unemployment and saved big businesses like Disney and other places millions and millions of dollars. I mean, even if the site's fixed and works, it doesn't give anybody unemployment. And, today was the topper of all toppers. 1 million people haven't got unemployment in this state. 1,200,000 have applied. The only people that have got unemployment were the 60,000 from Disney that a week and a half, 2 weeks ago got, finally laid off. The 40,000 people, I said 60,000 for Disney, right? 60,000 for Disney, 40,000 for Universal Studios, 40,000 for SeaWorld. And there's a couple other big ones in the state here right now. Busch Gardens, one of them. But in total, there are about 200,000 people. Well, 1 million people haven't got any unemployment from this guy. And he goes on TV and has the nerve to say, hey, everybody's got unemployment now here in the state. And by the way, Ron, if everybody's got it, then I'm the last one left. You can just get it from me and my wife. If you could take 10 minutes off and make a phone call and maybe get us that stimulus check, that'd be really, really good. So we're about to get thrown on the street as soon as they lift this moratorium on evictions. But anyway, besides all that, we're going to open up businesses that haven't got the money they were promised by the federal government. And if you think about it logically, just the $600 from the federal government that every one of these people, these 1 million people, absolutely deserve. I mean, it's their money. It's signed into law. This isn't a handout. This isn't welfare. By law, the Congress and the House and the President said they're supposed to get up to $240 a week plus $600. Okay? And guess what? Just that $600, $600 times 1 million people is $600 million a week. It's not going into the Florida economy, okay? And it's actually plus 240, 270. It's a lot more. I mean, this could be as high as $3 billion per month. That money would be going to the hardest hit people. But not only that, this is a trickle up society here. All the money that comes into the bottom goes right to the top, through the banks, through businesses. Every way there is, the rich people still wind up with it in the end. But it's a trickle-up society. How can any state afford? The minimum here is just over $2 billion. It's 600 a week times 1 million people. And I mean, it's much higher than that. And I mean, it's just ridiculous. My business relies on a lot of people that are lower income people. And basically, when this started out, we were promised 37 jobs. People called us up. I'm getting a stimulus check. Hey, Pete, can you fix this and fix that and fix this? And I said, great, no problem. It's $500 something, great. Well, when the first of the month came and nobody got a stimulus check, didn't hear from it for a while. But when a whole month went by, I started hearing back from these people saying, you know what, when I finally get a stimulus check, it's not even going to cover my health insurance and my rent and my car payment. So I've really got to tell you that don't expect us to be by to have these jobs done. I went from 36 jobs to about 3 or 4 that are left that still nobody has called me on, and they have called me to tell me they haven't gotten their money yet. They've called me over and over again. I mean, it is unbelievable that the only person we know in Deltona that's gotten unemployment is the pastor's wife for Deltona Presbyterian Church on Howland. I mean, and she wasn't one of the people we called on the survey. This is ridiculous. I mean, the government is letting us down in every way. Ron DeSantis, I've been in love with this guy, all the great work he's been doing. He's been getting us, everything that we need in this state to survive. PPE, shutting down things, shutting down schools, doing all the things he needs to do. And all this guy needed to do was he was given the responsibility of getting this government money under the CARES Act, out to the people, And I mean, just the $600 part, that's $600 million a week that would be going to pizzerias and hair salons and gyms and, every kind of business you can think of that's run as a small business. These people didn't get their money from the government, and they need the money from us if they're ever going to make a success out of their business. And just like me, with no work right now because nobody has any money, they're not going to have any customers. I mean, this is a disaster. Here's the bigger disaster, the one that really, really is the kicker. So many people have told me that, if they pull off this moratorium, they're going homeless. And they're not just going homeless. They're going to have their stuff put at the curb by the sheriff's department, okay? And when that happens, they don't even have a car to pack up with their stuff. You know, they have no money in the bank, period. All they're getting is a few food stamps right now to keep going. They have to walk to the damn store. Their stuff's going to they're going to be forced to walk away from everything they've ever owned in their whole life with what they can carry. I mean, we could have 1 million people on the street here in the state of Florida. We are ground zero for this nightmare. And if you expand on that, how many of these 1 million people are actually 3 and 4 people families? I mean, we could have 2 million people on the street. This isn't like the Great Depression. This is 100 times worse. This is apocalyptic. I started this site, and I've done everything I can. I've started a nonprofit. It's called the Freedom Party. And I'm going to sign up everybody, not just in this state, but in every state. I'm going to start 50 sister sites across the country. They will all be linked for national surveys. We're going to be able to do polls, and we're going to find out how many people have got unemployment, how many people haven't, how many people have gotten a stimulus check. But more than that, we're going to raise money with this site. And if we have to take class action lawsuits, to the government, directly to Ron DeSantis, maybe even sue Rick Scott for putting this system in place in the first place. No matter what we have to do, we need to get good people in place. We're going to do polls, find out what the people need. We're going to have all the people in one place. We're going to have pages of resources that through the federal government and state government where you can get help. I mean, it is not my hope to recall Rick DeSantis. Ron DeSantis, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Rick Scott. It's they're interchangeable at this point. It's unfortunate, really bad. Why do you keep pointing?